Hey, this episode is brought to you by the outstanding team at Compass Strategic Advisors, your trusted partner in driving strategic growth. Whether it's expanding into new territories, launching products, rebranding, or hiring key staff and board members, they offer the expert guidance every step of the way. With a versatile approach and a proven track record, Compass is the go-to resource for both startups and established companies looking to scale with confidence. Thanks, and show your support for this podcast by sharing some sponsor appreciation. Check these guys out at www.compass-strategic-advisors.com. Okay, and we are live with Liftoff with our special guest today, AJ Cassata from Revenue Boost. He's the co-founder, and that's a hot B2B marketing consulting company and agency. And AJ is a master of cold outreach, one of the truly unique skills necessary to compete effectively in the market today. AJ, welcome to Liftoff. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, Keith, thanks for having me. Excited to dive into the topic today.
We are going to have some fun, and I obviously I've been following you and watching you and learning from you um, for a while. And I normally start with a lot of backstory, and you've got a colorful one. I will give you that, but I want to just dive right in if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got a hot cup of coffee, and I think it's a hot topic. And you're such a transparent and feature forward kind of a guest that I have. I mean, you speak in terms of things that are really happening and what's working and what's not. So I'm just going to come right out and ask you, is email still an effective tool to drive marketing, to drive B2B marketing, to drive lead generation today?
Yeah, absolutely. It is still effective, but it has changed a lot over the last couple of years, which is why some companies, some marketers are struggling with it. Because really, like the way that you would do it a couple of years ago, it just doesn't work very well anymore. And speaking strictly about cold email, which is what my business does. So we do outbound campaigns, cold email prospecting, LinkedIn outreach, etc., cold calling, basically just reaching like new leads that haven't already heard of your company. And that's really been a lot more challenging than normal the last couple of years. So it still works because like really what happened is the channel got just, a little bit saturated and busy, which every marketing channel does over time, right? As the marketing channel grows in popularity, more companies get onto it. It just starts to get more noisy and more busy, right? The same thing happened with Facebook, right? Like 10 years ago, you could run Facebook ads and all you could do is just put your credit card in and you'd be guaranteed to like make money. But now it's very competitive, so a lot of people have a harder time with it. So the same thing happened with cold email. It just means that when more people are doing something, it's a good thing because it's validated. It means like all these companies wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work, if it didn't make money for them, and if it wasn't profitable, right? But because more people are doing it, because it's very busy, because your prospects are now seeing 20 email pitches a day from people with similar offers as you, it just means that you have to be better, right? You just have to try harder to stand out. So it's not that it doesn't work, it just means the bar has raised and you have to kind of approach it a little bit differently and just not send the same kind of like templated type of copy and campaigns that your competitors might be sending.
So before you used to just have to be in the game, today you have to become a master of the game. So let's talk about mastery because that's really your jam, right? I would have, again, we've talked and just shared some of this stuff, but we speak the same language. It starts with building a great list. I mean, having a
Yeah.
goal, having a great list. Who are you sending this to, and having that proper intention? Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, there's like 5 factors that we can go through all five today. These are
Okay.
like the 5 things that we look at when we're trying to, let's say, diagnose an underperforming campaign and figure out what we need to change, or just kind of build like a new system from scratch, right? The 5 factors are the email deliverability, the list, the offer, the copy, and then the volume, like sending enough outreach. And that's an order of importance. So we can walk through that in further detail. But yeah, the
Let's go.
second
Yeah.
piece, the second most important piece is the list, like you said.
Yeah. I think creating those. So how do I build the right list? Let's just start there, AJ.
Yeah, so before thinking like usually people the first thing people ask me is, hey, like what's the best tool or what's the best database? But that's not the most important question to ask because I think always like marketers especially like to obsess over the best tools. But to me, I think anything you're doing, not even just in marketing, but in your business, it's like 5% the tools and 95% like the actual strategy and the underlying approach you're trying to take, right? So we could definitely talk about like the databases we use and where like what's good, good price to value and whatnot. But really, it's first about understanding like what is my go-to-market plan, right? let's say I have like a marketing agency that I'm building a campaign for, right? Maybe it's a company that does like SEO and web development services and ads.
Okay.
Well, that marketing agency might serve a lot of different businesses from a lot of different industries, right? So before thinking about the actual list, first we have to think about like what are my key target markets, right? So what are the types of companies I want to go after, and then what are the contacts at those companies, right? And you might have a few, and if you don't know, if you are the type of company that does have a pretty like wide range of clients, you really have to do like a client audit, right? And the best thing you can do is just look back at however long you've been in business, look back at all of your clients, and if you've been doing in business for 20 years, maybe just look back at the last few, right? But honestly, this data is so valuable, right? So you can pull data from your CRM, or if you're like a newer startup and you're not that fancy yet, just at least write down on a pen and paper the last, like not just all of your clients, but just the best clients you've had, and think in terms of who was the easiest to close, right? Who just like really understood the value of your offer right away, who paid you the most, who was the most profitable, right? And really who brought the most lifetime value to your business, because it's like not all of your clients are equal. Some of your clients would have generated more profit for you with less headaches, right? So think in terms of who were your best clients, and then you have to think about what are the common traits. And I like to think in terms of company size and industry. Like those are the two most important things where you have to really nail when you're building a list. And the main reason for that is because that's how you want to group your campaigns. Like if you have a lot of different types of businesses you work with, you shouldn't be putting everyone in one campaign, because then you're going to have to send very generic messaging that doesn't really speak to one ICP, right? So like industry and company size is at a minimum how you should be segmenting lists, because you shouldn't send the same email or the same marketing message to two businesses in totally different industries, because they would just have very different problems and ways that they explain things, right? So start to understand like who are your best customers in terms of company size, industry. Who do you work the best with? Is it small businesses? Is it like gyms? Is it like solo gyms or gym franchises, right? And then you want to understand the context, right? Who was the person that actually hopped on a call with you? Because the goal of Outbound is just to get people on calls, right? So who's the best like way into the company? Is it the owner? A lot of time if you're dealing with smaller
But now
businesses,
you're
it's
into
probably
now
the
you're into
owner.
job title, right?
Now we're going into job titles, right? So before you build the list, you have to be clear on who's the ideal company I want to work with,
Yes.
and then who's the ideal job title that I want to send my email to actually, pitch my services and get them on a call with me, right?
Got it. And that leads right into that copy point. So, you're trying to, in the copy, quickly understand the problem that they might be facing,
Yeah.
or the solution that you're offering, whether it's a actual problem or something that they should think about as an opportunity. How do you start to, create that copy path for that outreach?
Mm. Yeah, really good question, because I mean, even me, like I receive so many cold emails, which is
Right.
funny because I'm a cold email agency. So I think everyone targeting me is really like already off to a bad start. They don't realize that they're actually selling the same thing I do, right? So they're definitely don't have their targeting down. But even me as
Yeah.
someone who sells this service and probably gets less than most people, I receive like 10, 20 a day. So the copy is really important to standing out. But honestly, if you just do the first part right, which is build a really good list, the copy becomes a lot easier. So I think the more that you do market research and the more that you work on like your targeting and really laser into one specific type of person, type of company, the copy almost writes itself, because you start to like, it's just much easier to talk to one person, right? It's the same thing with like social media content. If you have a hard time writing content, it's often because you're trying to write content for everybody, rather than like, if you think of one specific person, one specific problem they're happening, it's really just like describing that person and that problem. It doesn't really take a whole lot of like creativity, but we could talk about some frameworks as well. But
AJ,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Let me push back, at least as a devil's advocate, and say I understand that it's easy to write the copy, especially today. We have AI tools, we have all kinds of
Yeah.
experiences, right? But how do I break through the noise and get somebody to actually open it, much less respond and engage and
Mm.
book a call? Because I got a ton of people offering to save my problems every time I open up my email. So,
Yeah.
what are you finding that gets that signal through all that noise? And then secondly, um, how many times do I need to email before I would expect some kind of response?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say with copy, there's definitely, it's kind of a handful of things, right? It's not like just have this one thing right, but there's a couple of key things we do every time. The first one I already mentioned, which is specificity,
Yeah.
because if I'm going to run a campaign to, gym franchises in California, I can describe like really specific things about problems they might be facing, and I can use industry terminology that's already going to set me aside from like, let's say every other marketing agency was in that example was targeting those gyms. They might just be saying, hey, we can run SEO, we can run social media, we can run Google ads. but because they're targeting everybody. But if you're targeting a very, very specific market segment, you'll already stand out by talking about like gym specific terminology and maybe a case study of another gym you helped, right? So that's kind of like the first thing that really sets you up for success.
Right.
Beyond that, short and sweet is key, because if you have really long emails, first of all, they just don't get read, right? Like when people are in their email inbox, it's not like they're on social media and they're like, they have time to waste. It's usually, I'm a business owner, I'm trying to get it out of my inbox quickly, just like filter my emails. So they're not really going to prioritize a long sales email. Like you're kind of at the bottom of their list, right? So just make it really easy for them to read and respond to. Short and sweet is key. And like you said, hey, if I get a lot of emails from similar services, you're like, why am I going to respond to your message? What's going to make you catch my attention, right? Two things. One is social proof, right? So if someone's like emailing you,
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep.
like all they have is you as a stranger emailing them in their inbox, right? It's not like it's not like they're gonna, watch a 20-minute video about you, or it's not like if they reach out to you on LinkedIn and you can actually look at their profile and see their clients. Like you're literally just an email on a page, right? So you're coming in really cold and they have no kind of like background to you. So you have to really make the case for, why should I believe you? Like every marketer is going to promise the same claims when they, reach out to your potential clients. Everyone's going to say, oh, we can grow your business, or we can save you money or save you time or increase efficiency, blah, 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 blah. So most of your competitors are making the same claim. So everyone's always skeptical, like, okay, I've heard this before, but why should I believe you? So case study, social proof, that could be big name clients you worked with. If you don't have those, it's fine. It could also be the number of clients you work with. Like, I'll give you an example. So I'll give you like a couple of bullet points that I would say if I was pitching my services in an outbound agency. I would say I've been doing outbound lead generation for 12 years. I would say we've run over 600 campaigns. We've helped over 400 clients. We've worked with dozens of B2B niches. We've worked with brands like Instantly and Clay. So that's like 5 different types of social proof, right? I mentioned like an aggregate number of clients we've helped. I've mentioned like experience and years in the game. I've mentioned big name clients. So you can kind of like work with whatever social proof you have, but you have to have some sort of line to address the why should I believe you. Now you could still have a good claim, a good offer and social proof, and still kind of blend in and sound like everyone else, right? So the next part is what's unique about what you're doing. A lot of people don't think they do anything unique unless you already are like inherently a unique company because you offer like a software tool that's like innovative and no one else is doing. But assuming that you're like most people listening and you have competitors, you might not think you have anything unique, but if you really dive into your process and like the steps you take to serve your customers, there's probably more things you're doing that might seem normal to you because it's your everyday work, but actually are unique and actually bring a lot of value to your clients, right? Because we all have unique things about our background, right? We all have our own life experience that we're drawing on, our own work experience, our own personality, our own opinions, our own like ways of doing things and just methods we've developed over the years. So if you're not clear on what makes you unique, you really have to start there. Because anytime you're doing cold marketing in a competitive industry, again, you really have to dial that in. Now, if you're targeting an industry that doesn't receive a lot of pitches like yours, like let's say that your business that works with some sort of like obscure manufacturing company that isn't getting prospected every day by people like you don't really have to like work too hard on the copy then. You just have to kind of be there, show up, at least you get your email like open and delivered, and just make a direct claim. So it always depends on the market you're in. Like generally, the more competitive a market you're in, the more you have to focus on differentiation. But if you could just find like a pocket of the market that's less competitive and there isn't a lot of other people playing in that space, you could again like you don't have to really try too hard on like the differentiation, which is also nice. So that's another thing.
And just to establish your thought process here, AJ, you're not talking about sending an email. One, you're talking about a regular sequence or campaign that's structured and all created at once and then scheduled at a certain time break, or do you send one and see what happens? How do you look at building that strategy out in that campaign?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. That's really important. So once you have the basics in place, you have a really good list. You've got copy that has is specific. It has a useful offer. You have social proof. You have some differentiation. Then it's about how do I actually send this out? Usually we'll do a sequence of like 2 to 4 emails scheduled over 2 weeks. So I'm not saying that people listening should go sit there and handwrite 100 emails a day to 100 different prospects. Really, what you want to do is you want to write one sequence and you pre-schedule it in a tool. We can talk about tools as well, but there's tons of cold email softwares. You pre-schedule it. So essentially you would like take a list of, let's say 2,000 businesses, upload it to a tool, pre-write your sequence, your cadence, upload it to the same tool, and then it would kind of send it for you one by one to each person on the list in the background. That way you can have like an autopilot system just, generating you leads, which is pretty awesome. But generally we go for 2 to 4 follow-ups because, as you know, like a lot of times people just, they need to hear from you a couple times. They need to kind of build that trust. And most people might just miss the first email, right? It might just like get completely missed by them.
I like it. So there's a campaign that gets all that story out of here's who we are, here's what we solve,
Yeah.
here's how we can help, here's our social proof, here's some case studies, here's some metrics, and maybe another why to buy message in number 4 or 5 email. But how do I then
Mm.
go back and try to follow up constructively? And should I start to use other media besides the email channel? Do I follow up with some kind of text or phone call or other type of outreach?
Yeah, so I would say the answer is both. The best practice is use other channels, but also I'm aware that maybe if someone's trying this on their own rather than hiring a company, maybe it could be overwhelming to do all that, and maybe they just want to like do one thing. So if you use email alone, you will get results. But yes, you can also get better results if you layer in LinkedIn or giving a call. Because at the end of the day, everyone's different, right? Like I never answer random phone calls. I haven't like literally in years. I'm also like overseas right now. I'm in Asia, so I don't like if someone calls me, it's happening at like 2 a.m. and my phone's off. So I don't answer cold calls, but I do answer emails all the time. And then people are different. Like some people might answer a call from a stranger, but they just don't respond to cold emails, right? So when you do multiple channels, first of all, you'll kind of show up in the same place for the same person. They'll start to kind of recognize your company name and build that trust. But also, again, some people just only might be reachable on one channel. So that's also really useful.
Do you have any secrets, AJ? Any of your special hacks that you can describe that's not in the traditional email marketing 101 or 201 handbook?
Yeah, there's a lot we do. I mean, I think one thing we do is we personalize the emails. So I'll give you two really good things. One is we personalize the emails. So let's say that you were going to handwrite 20 emails a day to your ideal prospects and send them out manually rather than like use an automated tool. The benefit of that would be that you could customize every single email to the prospect. You could research their business. Maybe you could see like some news that's happening at their company on their social media, and maybe you could like make an observation and tie that into like, hey, I saw that this is happening, and this is why I think we should work together. So those emails would work better if they were custom written, because again, like the person's going to feel like you did your homework, and it's not just a random email, right? Like, would you agree with that, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that would work better, right? Most people would know that they'd be more likely to respond if it felt like this person really took 10 minutes to,
Yes.
again, like take the effort. However, that's going to be very, very time consuming. So now you can use AI to do that for you. So we'll pre-write a sequence, but then we'll use an AI tool like clay.com, and we'll actually have every email so again, it's a pre-written cadence that we just write once, but then we're using an AI agent that's going out to customize that email to each prospect based on like whatever research we want to tell it to do, right? So for example, one time we were helping a e-commerce marketing agency, like a marketing company that helps e-commerce and retail brands. And we were basically having the AI agent go to each e-commerce store that we were reaching out to and find the name of their best-selling product and then mention that in the subject line of the email. Again, something that a salesperson would do if they were taking the time to like really just manually like craft these emails and send them out. But now we can have AI do it. So that's really cool because now we can get
That's
like
a great
that
example. Thank you. That's a fantastic example. How else are you
yeah.
using AI? I meant to ask you that too, because obviously GPT, Gemini, whatever your flavor, can do a lot of
Mm.
the writing for you and really help you build that sequence. But where do you inject and start building out agents to manage all this for you? How do you look at the human in the middle process? Is that still
Mm.
relevant in terms of looking at each and every email before it gets sent?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It's funny. I've been doing a load of podcasts recently, and AI comes in everyone, right? But it should because like this is really the future. Like I've been using it and it's so helpful. And I think like if you're not using it at all, like you have to. Otherwise, it's going to be like not using the internet, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we do use a lot of AI, maybe a little bit too much because we spent $300 just today on OpenAI credits. The day's not even halfway over yet, but
I have a feeling you're making a good return on that though, AJ.
yeah, definitely. It brings our clients better results, so that's it's worth it. But basically, yeah. So one common use case of AI is what I just said. So we have our emails go out that actually we research the prospect and we customize the emails as a way to stand out. That's one. It's also great for the initial copywriting. So I think if anyone's listening to this and hasn't done any cold outbound before, like any cold outreach, emails, scripts, etc., it's great to use ChatGPT or ideally Claude. It's kind of a little bit better for writing to write your initial script. I'm not just going into Claude and having it write all of our scripts because we're also a professional agency, so we have like the skill to do it ourselves, but we do use it to kind of like speed up the process and write drafts. But if you're a beginner, you're better off kind of just like, at least if you're just starting from zero, use it to help you write the initial scripts, because then you'll kind of just see like what a good script looks like, and you'll start to kind of like be able to write those yourself, right? So
Yeah,
definitely it's great for
my
writing
feeling it's almost
drafts.
like my feeling it's like almost like an 80-20 rule where it can start with 80% of the copywriting, but then you apply the 20% to really customize, personalize, and inject
Mm.
that insight. And I think that's a huge differentiator if you really put that 20% in.
I think you have to, because I mean we use AI across a lot of areas in our business, not just like the email and the lead generation we do for our clients, but in our operations and finance. And our rule is we always check AI's work, because you've probably seen it just make up things before, right? It just like sometimes it just likes to lie, right? It hallucinates. So if you're doing work and you're just trusting the AI to do it correctly, it's in my opinion like irresponsible, because it's not at the point yet where it has 100% accuracy. I even saw something recently. It was actually in Australia where like McKinsey was producing a report for the Australian government, and it charged like $400,000 for the report. And the government found like AI making up things in it, and then they were like, I think they sued him or they got a refund or something. So
Oh yeah.
you can't just let it do its thing. You have to always check it.
AJ, you're big into B2B and SaaS, and obviously I play a lot in that area as well. What are you seeing on the customer side? Where are they saying, hey, this was really successful? I want to hear a good success story. And then I may ask a horror story as well, but let's start with the
Yeah,
success.
yeah, we can definitely cover both. So I mean, yeah, we do work with a lot of stats. That's like our main target market, main client base at the moment. Recently, we worked with like a fintech and like financial service company, and one cool success story was that pretty much in the first week we got them 10 booked demos. Most of our clients, if they get 10 calls a month, they're happy, because let's say they're paying 300, $400 a call for a good quality meeting. That's worth it, right? So just in the first week, we got them 10 booked calls, which was really awesome, because
Yes.
like a lot of times whenever you launch any new marketing channel, you shouldn't expect in the first couple of weeks it's going to do much, because you kind of have to like tweak it and test it and play around. But
So what was the
we just kind
key?
of,
What was the key to getting the 10? Obviously your process, but was there anything
yeah.
special about that offer?
Yeah, I mean, in general, our process is pretty refined by now. But one new thing we tried for that client was back to the whole customizing each email. We customized the first line based on the country the prospect was in. So in their space, because they're in the financial space, they're selling a service to international, like all different countries. And depending on the country they sell to, that country has different like regulatory problems they have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So what we did is we uploaded like a big knowledge base about the regulatory financial issues in their space in every country, and how this product solves that. So then the first line of every email is saying, "Hey, I saw that you're in Singapore, and I'm sure that as you're expanding your business, you're probably dealing with X, Y, and Z. We help solve that, right?" So again, we're really starting the email showing that not only do we understand their problem, but we're building a lot of credibility, because we're saying like, I research your business, I know that you're dealing with this, and we helped another company solve this. So I think that was a big part to do with it as well. And they also just had like a great offer and great social presence too, which helps. Not necessarily social, but just like digital, or like they had a good website, and that's a big thing too. Like if we take on a client and we see that they have like zero online presence, of course we can still get some leads with outbound and marketing, but people are going to look you up if they receive a good email from you. So it's important that you also have like at least the bases covered and have some content out online too.
Right. So speaking of that, AJ, you're focusing on email, at least for this conversation, but in terms of marketing, people are spending money more on social channels. They're spending money on website, SEO, AEO
Hmm.
kind of activities. They're doing paid ads. What are you seeing in terms of emails effectiveness? Is it going up, down? How does it compare in terms of ROI?
Yeah, I mean, the ROI is great, because when you're doing outbound, all you do is you pay for, let's like labor and software, right? Whereas let's say you're going to pay for ads, you have to pay for labor, software, which would usually be like
Well,
hiring an agency.
HubSpot and Instantly aren't free, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so you're always going to pay, but at least there's like one less variable to pay for, right? You're not paying for software. an agency, and also paying, whatever, 3 5K a month to like for Facebook to actually run the ads. So I like it because I like that it's a very low cost channel to kind of test new things for like for like less upfront capital. So once you get it working, the ROI is pretty high. You're not always going to expect, like anything, you shouldn't expect an ROI on day one or even in month one. But definitely within the first couple of months, you should start seeing a pretty good ROI. How it compares, I don't look at, so like our business, as you know, just does exclusively outbound. But I don't think that every business should only do outbound. I think every business should also be doing paid ads and the things you mentioned. Because to me, they all play a different part, right? They play a part in the ecosystem, right? Like if you have a good website, if you have good content, well, then when you do outbound or you run a Facebook ad, people will see that, and then they'll be more likely to work with you, right? Or, if you have an email newsletter or a YouTube channel or a podcast like this, and let's say you email someone with a cold email or you cold call them and they don't sign with your company, well, if they're following your podcast or YouTube, well, then that's going to nurture them, and then maybe they'll come back, and then maybe they receive another email from you 12 months later, and then now that was the trigger to get them to buy. So to me, I see marketing as like an ecosystem where over time you should build all of these out. But I do think if you have nothing built out in terms of lead generation and all of your leads just come from referrals and organic, and you're kind of looking at like what's the first channel I should build out, I would recommend outbound just because it's going to work a little bit faster. And it's going to cost a little bit less upfront than if you were to go into like paid ads.
I like that. So, in wrapping up a little bit, AJ, and let you get back to your day or evening, actually, I don't know what time
Yeah, evening. It's
in
11 over
Vietnam.
11 p.m. here.
What what do you see for email? Do you target that to fill top of funnel? Is that to get people interested in the product? Will they be ready to buy? Middle of funnel
Hmm.
activity? How are you seeing that, or is it maybe a combination as well? And then when you kick off these email campaigns, is it sequenced accordingly?
Yeah, good question. So we're primarily doing it for top of funnel. So in terms of the whole cold outreach space, we're doing it to fill the top of the funnel. That's just really what our clients are hiring us for. I mean, you could really use it for anything, but in terms of what we're mostly using it for, having success with, is filling the top of funnel, taking a cold list, building a list of ideal companies and prospects for a business, and then just reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, would you like to book an appointment?" So we mostly deal with companies that like have like a book a demo to see their SaaS or book like a sales call. And that's really what you want to do. You don't want to try to use email to like bring them down the whole funnel and like sell the offer. It's really just to kind of like get them in the funnel and then move them to whatever the next step in your sales process is, which is usually like an appointment, right? So really just that initial step, but you can also use it for middle of funnel, bottom of the funnel. I think a lot of companies, they'll get leads from the top of funnel, and then if those leads don't convert, they won't really do much with them, right? But if you just took your like list of people that have had sales calls with you in the last year but never signed and sent them an email, you probably get a lot of them to pretty quickly like rebook with you or sign up. Or if you've had leads that have like sometimes we'll work with like a warm list, like maybe a client of ours has had leads that maybe signed up for a webinar or downloaded a free thing, but they just never ended up converting or like speaking with the sales team. Those are great leads to do outreach to. So honestly, if you have these warm sources, existing leads that haven't converted, I would probably start there before doing the cold stuff. Because that's really going to be your low-hanging fruit. If you're not really giving attention to your existing leads, definitely start there. Because again, they've already heard you. They just maybe need another nudge to like pull the trigger, right? But beyond that, obviously you'll tap that out at some point. So beyond that, cold is where you want to go, top of funnel to just keep bringing more people in.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, you got tons of takeaways there, folks. This is AJ Cassata from Revenue Boost, a hot website, a hot marketing agency, master of cold outreach. He's got a podcast, obviously a cool website. Sign up so you get his emails too. He's a great read. What else can I say, AJ? I really appreciate you taking the time, and it's a great way out in California to get fired up for the day, and
Yeah.
we owe that to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I hope this brought a lot of value to the listeners. I'm happy to connect with anyone on social or by email if they want to like ask any follow-up questions or get any more help.
Great. I'll drop some of those links into our show notes. And again, thanks for taking the time. It was great.
Yeah, awesome. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely.